Right. Welcome to this afternoon's meeting of the the Finance and Governance Committee. Right. I would like to ask everyone present that should the fire alarm sound, we should leave the building immediately via one of the fire exits, which are clearly signposted outside the committee room. Please only use the stairs, do not use the lift. The fire assembly point is in the staff car park at the rear of Dean House. You should not return to the building for any reasons until you're advised to do so. It's safe to do so. Can I remind everybody to please put their mobiles on silence mode. We have no microphone, so it doesn't affect us. The meeting will be recorded and live webcast, and therefore when speaking, please speak clearly. As the chair of the meeting, I have the discretion to terminate and suspend recordings and webcasting if, in my opinion, continue to do so would prejudice the proceeds of the meeting. Recording and webcasting of the confidential items will not take place. Please remind, if you leave the meeting for any reason, you will not be able to take part in the vote of that item being discussed at that time. Please can I request when you speak, you make your points as distinctly as possible to allow for the smooth running of the meeting. Please can I also take the opportunity to remind you to be polite and treat each other with respect at all times. For members of the public wishing to use the toilets, I'll go there. There's no members of the public in the meeting. Can I request that anyone brings a cup or glass into the committee room, please return to the kitchen after the meeting. Thank you. Right, we have apologies for absence.
Yeah, Councillor Faccini and Councillor Tewson submitted apologies.
I haven't heard from anybody else.
No.
Okay. Right, declare the declaration of interest. I have none. No, there's no declaration of interest. Minutes from the meeting held on, to get the date right, I can't remember, on the 11th of March 2024. How do we deal with this one? Because Tom wasn't there, there's only two of us there. Is that still?
You can still vote on the minutes, yeah.
Have you, I can ask, have you written?
I haven't noticed discrepancy on the presence and absences. So apologies for not spotting that sooner.
Yes. Right.
But otherwise, the body of the minutes is correct.
Is it all right if I sign them? Are they correct? Yes.
Yeah, it's all in favour of them.
That's it.
Do I need to say I'll second the
Okay. Suppose.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Before we start, I'm not a silly question, I know. Have you both read?
I have.
So have you written, Tom?
Today, yes.
Yeah, then what's on today's agenda? All right. I'm going to make it clear. The reason being that this is only alterations. This is the original document with alterations.
Yep.
There's one thing I'd like to bring to the clerk's attention. It would be nice if you're, or if it, no, I don't think you did it. I think it was done by. Was it done by who actually did the alterations on it?
On the document. So I went through it with Marcus.
Not with Marcus.
Yeah.
Where you've done it in red and done the new part of it in red, could that not be done in blue?
It's the track changes. It's just, I think that's just.
That's what we're going to do it.
Automatic colour.
Yeah, I found it. You were reading and then realising that you had both parts there. Sorry.
Yeah. So we done it as track changes, so you could see the changes that we've done.
And then bear with me a second, because this thing is now designed by itself.
Could I raise a small point? And it's not the most shattering of one, but it does. It's something that just bugged me slightly going through these, and something that I quite like is to bear in mind on all our policies. the gendered references to the chair, which interestingly it's chair, not chairman, it's chair throughout. But wherever it references chair, it says he or him or his.
Oh,
It is in the official black section, which I know it says it recommends that we adopt unchanged. But at some point, would it be possible to change it to they, them, their?
Yeah.
As a gender neutral.
So if anything in solid is the legal legislation, so that is copied as it is, so obviously we can alter the legal legislation, but anything else, I think we did.
It's all in the stuff that's involved, so that is from,
Legal legislation, yeah.
yeah, I know it recommends that we do, we don't amend that, but I wasn't sure if you could technically, if it's not substantially altering the meaning of the document. But if that's.
I'll take that,
possible.
yeah, I'll take that away and have a look at it, see if we can.
right, well, the first item is, standing orders. How we should, do we actually need to go through it? If you're both ready, do we need to go through it? Word refer,
I didn't have any other
there was nothing,
major issues with the standing orders. Big concerns.
and the alterations were minor. Are you happy with that, Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you prepared to accept it as the new version shows?
Yeah, with the proposed changes, I'm happy to propose that.
Yeah.
The second.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favour? Yes?
Yes. Okay, and just to confirm, you're putting this as a recommendation to full council,
Yes.
so you're confirming that you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, it's just the standing orders item 4.
Yes,
Yeah.
because we'll go through each one.
Yeah.
That way, otherwise we're gonna get confused. The next one is the finance regulation and internal finance control. And I'm gonna say the same again. There isn't that many changes. It's just slight changes on.
I had a couple of small questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
2.2, Chair of Finance to review the bank reconciliation. Does that happen independently of this council, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think this one,
Yeah,
that
that's
was
the standard
happening.
thing.
And I think 4.2, there's a recommendation that budget violence over 30,000 come to this committee. Are we happy with that amount? Or would we want to be notified if it was a slightly lower figure? I'm saying it's that £30,000 is quite a large amount of budget transfers for some of the budget pots. If we're happy with 30,000, that what was in there last time, would we,
Will we agree?
are we comfortable with that, or would we prefer that to be because it's not precluding you from doing that as clerk, but it's the notification process coming to this committee.
You could
I
have,
personally would feel more comfortable if it was a lower amount than that, just so that we're aware that if that transfer's happening.
If it's reported to this committee, does that mean you can't action it until it's been through the committee?
No, so it's just a report,
Report.
yes,
Just
just
report.
anything over 30,000.
But I think it might be worth it being a slightly lower figure. I don't know what sums you fired across this year that would have been below that.
I think it's anything, isn't it?
It's plus monthly happening.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
to be honest,
Well, yeah, there has been a lot within last year's.
there hasn't been anything that we've had to wire 30,000 from another budget heading without it going from council.
Okay.
anything else, Anne?
So if we're happy, if you're comfortable with that, that's fine. I just thought I would check. Internal controls, that was still part, that's fine. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, no, just on the environment, sorry, just moving on to a different thing. Is there a higher cap whereby the violence would have to come to this committee? Or to the relevant committee? Before it happens, so if all budget violence exceeding £30,000 are reported to the committee, that means they've already happened. But so hypothetically, what if the clerk fired £150,000 out of a different budget pot from one pot to another? That might get reported back to the committee, but by the time it's come back to the committee, that's already happened. So if councillors aren't happy with that decision, there's no kind of what I would call like a cooling period or something where you go, actually, I'm not Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
is there kind of, yeah,
There's any overspend over 30,000 on a budget has to come through
okay,
to the
got
committee
you.
anyway.
So I get picked up on the spend part one and the alignment part.
Yeah, but if there was a need for it, anything over 30,000 would have to come through to you.
Okay. So, okay, that,
Okay.
that, is that going to get the vote of those?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Thank you, sorry.
No, that's okay. I've actually done
Yes.
homework, so.
Yeah.
Internal controls, point 2. It's just talking about the separation of, the financial control, making sure no one person has control of all the finances. And I'm just purely being devil's advocate here about the fact that the clerk is the RFO. Is that still sufficient separation? Having the clerk being the RFO in an organisation of this size, in terms of making sure there's checks and balances on the spending.
Yeah, so we do have the internal control process. So like at the moment, CalFlash they can set payments up, but then they can authorise it. So it has to go through 2 other senior officers, so either myself or for Marcus to authorise the payments or vice versa. So there's a 3-point check as such, and the internal auditor has been happy with the processes that we've got in place.
Okay. And I think that was it for the financial regulations.
Are we happy to pass it through to full council? I'll propose it. Who's going to?
I'll second it after all my queries.
All in favour? Make it, yes.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Systems delegation. We'll do the same again. Is there any queries that anyone wants to bring up?
No, it's not so much a query, sorry. It's not so much a query, I just think it's worth highlighting, and we might all be comfortable with it, only because when I saw the number, I was just weighing up my mind. It's the £100,000 spend for a committee, which might be okay. It's just quite a large amount from where we are at the moment. I say it might be the right thing to do. I suppose worth mentioning this for us to possibly discuss it quickly. See if we are happy for it. We send it to full council as a recommendation. I know it's within budget lines, isn't it? So within a set budget line, they spend up to £100,000. I don't know if there's something, I don't know practically. So if, for example, the Operations and Assets Committee agreed to spend £99,500 on renovating a toilet block, and they could sign that all through the committee, that would all be ticked off. Is there an opportunity, once that decision has been made, for any other councillor that sees it to kind of call it in? Is there a period of time before that's action, or if it's agreed at the meeting that it's locked in and
They've
done?
agreed with them, yeah, because that committee has got delegated authority, and, within their terms of reference, they can make those decisions. So you're giving those decision powers to whoever is on that committee to make. And the £100,000,
Yeah.
we did have the discussion, is it the right
Yeah.
amount? Should it be more? Should it be less? But one thing we need to consider is obviously being able to enable the committees, because it's all very well having a committee in the first place, but if you're not enabling them with money to be able to do things, then you're then maybe delaying it, because it'd have to go back to council. The council could make the decision, then say, actually, yes, we're then let the Operations and Assets Committee to continue it, so then it would go back to that committee. So obviously there is a time frame.
Yeah.
But when you think of the 100,000, it seems, yes, a lot of money, but when you've got a budget of 5.9 million, is £100,000 a lot in the grand scheme of your overall budget that you've got?
I'm comfortable with it, and I absolutely agree that the committee should be able to have the authority and the ability to move quickly on things and authorize that spend. So absolutely on board with it. Maybe it's more an internal comms piece sent to members is when one of those big decisions is on the agenda, that's really clearly communicated to all members when the agenda comes out, which is here's the agenda, but be aware item 6 relates to a spend, a large spend, just so that we're all aware.
Yeah, and any member can go.
Of course, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
And speak as well, so.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
shouldn't have a problem.
And have their say as well in the room, can't they?
I guess this is a big change from last year. We are going to go to bi-monthly full council
Yeah.
meetings so that there is more delegated authority to the committees to actually get the work done. It's just a little bit scary that these big, big spends might not come back to full council. So it may be something, obviously, this is going to be the structure for the year. But we could see what that comfort level is this time next year and whether it needs to be revised if it's not doing what we need it to do.
Or increase, there might be a chance that we increase it, because it might work. I suspect it will work really well. I think it's absolutely the right model for us to be going down. Test and learn, I think.
Yeah, whereas before there wasn't that power, but giving them that power to be able to, you're enabling committees to make decisions and get on and do things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, the other parts on this, I think should be put, recorded separately, is the community and place committee is one committee, because these are two total different. I'm not, maybe it's me getting it wrong, but still. And we got the operations and asset committee, but they're two new committees, aren't they?
Yes.
So we should recognise that we have seen that they have been there on this meeting. Am I not right?
I'm assuming just the fact that they're in that scheme delegation,
But
that's technology
we
that
want
they
to
are.
make sure that people understand but we have looked at that.
Yeah.
I'm afraid people look and say, well, they've not mentioned them, so how is all of a sudden they've arrived?
So what will happen is obviously you're reviewing the
And the full council.
scheme of delegation, internal controls, etc., and the terms of reference. So at your full council meeting, what you will need to do is you would need to disband your current, because you've currently got a operations.
Yes.
Community services.
You've currently got the community services committee, so you would disband that committee and create two new committees, one community and place committee and one operations and assets committee. During that meeting, you will also agree the terms of reference for those committees
Yes.
and appoint your members to them, so everybody be aware that this is what we've done. And these are the recommendations for the terms of reference for the committee.
That will all be on the agenda for the full council for people to see in advance.
The May
21.
first, yeah.
And in terms of,
No,
in terms of those two committees specifically, so community in place and operations and assets, like you said, they've got different areas of responsibility, but they're also very closely linked in many ways to what we're doing. Is there enough scope, or could we increase the scope for? So if something comes through community services, or community in place, and we want to move on quickly, but then there would be a 2-month window. Is there a way that we can bring something to operations and assets in the interim so we can keep things moving if we need to? I don't think that will often be the case, but there might be an occasion where
It is, like I say, it is the closest link. So just for example, you've got the pop-up shop.
Yeah.
Actually, the pop-up shop, you could sit under either or one, because it would be an asset. It could be an asset, but actually it's about, communities in place and encouraging people into the town. So you could have them.
Okay.
Is it possible at one committee to vote then to have a matter discussed and agreed on?
Yeah,
You can and just pass authority to another committee. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I see. So you could in place go. We want to do this. It needs a bit of extra work, so we're going to suggest that operations and assets look at it in a month's time. In our
you can
place.
delegate that.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
As long as it's minuted and that's documented.
That could be fun between the chairs.
We did have this.
Yeah, exactly.
that could be dodgy, because those could be staff opposed to each other. It should only go to one committee.
Ideally, it would sit
Yeah,
under
it would
one,
We're
but then there's
all one council. We all have the same agenda essentially. So it shouldn't really matter who.
We don't know who our new councillor's going to be yet.
Democratically, you all have the same voice and the same
Yes,
vote.
yes, yeah, right. That's where I was, sorry. Right, I'm back where I was again. Are we happy with the changes on that document?
School delegation, yes.
Delegate, baby, yeah.
Shall I propose that?
Yes.
Something,
Yeah. Okay with that.
all in favour, yes. That's clear.
Okay.
Right.
Grants policy.
What can we do to up their grants policy?
Well, I've got a question.
Okay.
Sorry, Columbo, one more thing. I was just some clarification on the wording, at the start. So I haven't got document open, I've got my notes. It says that applicants must be available to attend and present.
Yeah,
And I wanted to check, because that actually wording favours something that I would quite like to do with grants. They must be available. It doesn't say they must attend.
Yes.
So they must be available to, but if the grants committee decide that there is no need for the representation,
Yeah.
we can allow, if we've already decided we've got sufficient evidence and there's no need for them to come and present additionally, we can still grant them funds
Yeah.
without them coming on,
Yeah.
on the evening, because that's what I'd love the flexibility to do, and the wording of that indicates that we can.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was the reasons that it was changed. So it was they must be available to attend or answer questions. So if the committee had any additional questions, they would have to answer the questions. So yeah, there was some changes done on this policy.
And the wording does say we'll let them know within 3 weeks, and they are still obliged to answer further questions should we have them, even following the grants committee. Perfect. I don't understand the process. I'm very happy with that.
And just to highlight a couple of more changes, obviously, that went in the policy was about having the grant funding is for
The venues.
that's the word.
Yes, venue fundings. I know this is something that's been discussed because it couldn't be covered by the previous grants policy. If we had organisations that wanted support for ongoing running costs, that would be far in excess of the normal grant policy.
Yeah.
Have we allocated particular money for this, or would this be then via from development or devolution budgets
Yes.
as necessary?
As part of the recommendation, so we've added in the venue cost of grants and donations, because there wasn't anywhere for donations as well. So we've added it in. So what this committee needs to do is they need to make a recommendation to full council that you would via money, because at the moment you've got your grants on 75, is it?
Something like that.
But because we've allowed applications within this policy up to £50,000, you could wipe out the whole pot in one application. So full council would need to agree to buy us some money, and we've suggested coming from the devolution pots into your grant pot.
Yeah.
The amount is obviously.
Because the intention is not to use sums of that size from the normal grants policy. It would have to be incredibly exceptional circumstances to.
It's an additional.
It's an additional
Yeah.
process.
So, I'm assuming that we're not actively advertising this as a service that we would offer. But this is on a case by case basis. Should organisations come to us, or should we be aware of organisations that we might want to approach?
Yeah, so it's on a case by case basis, and it's up to a limit of 50,000 for extraordinary circumstances. They've got some criteria they have to follow, the same as what you had with the youth grants. So they have to provide a business case, because obviously it's a large sum of money that you're.
And does that enable multi-year as well?
It's only for 1 year, to be given 1 year, because what you need to think about is what you would have to then put into your budget for years 2 and 3 to allow something in there for this year. You've obviously got some funds within the devolution that you could transfer over. You could next year do it for 2 or 3 years. You would have to think about that when you set your budget for the next year and what your next 3 or 4 years budget setting looks like. Okay.
I've just got one question. It's on here, and this has actually happened to us. It says these grants are only awarded to organisations based in the town. I can understand that. Unfortunately, I know an organisation which would like to come to us for grants, and with this in it, you would say, disappear. No, we're not going to do it. Although they're a town organisation, they're not in the town. They're actually at Westmoncton. because of problems they had in my ward. They moved out to Westmonton. They've tried at Westmonton Council for the same route to get grants. Westmonton say, well, you know, you're not a local area. Go back to your own area. So what happens in that case? Because it does bother me. He asked me openly, you know, can I come to the town council? And I said, no, I'm not sure you'll be able to.
So these grants are, that's the 50,000 that says that, and for the venue grants, so the venues have to specifically be
Within the town.
Within the town boundaries.
And this makes it hard because of the people at this club. It's
I know which one you're talking about. I think.
Oh, have they been in touch with you?
No, but it's just come up. I know geographically where they are located.
Right. Most of the youngsters come from my ward, but they actually play the game. Their table tennis. They play in Westmonton because they had so much trouble in Holcombe, in their venue there, that they moved out. Westmonton feel they can't support them because they're not a Westmonton organisation. But now we're saying exactly the same thing, but they are.
But it's a venue cost.
It's a venue cost.
It's a venue.
Oh, I should have declared interest because the venue they use is where I'm a chair.
But yeah, that's not venue costs. So let's say the organisation and the venue would be
it's
one and the same, rather than someone that's hiring a venue somewhere. So
I think what you need to be mindful of is if you don't have some strict guidance in there, is you could have any venue in any town or parish coming to you and saying, we want to apply for money, people from Taunton use this service, so that's just.
No, I'm happy with saying that it needs to, and we have something in our, I forget which particular policy it is, or whether it's just our vision that says that every penny we raise, every pound we raise will be spent
In Taunton.
for people at Taunton. So I think we need to stick to that.
The only, just again, I don't know if I have a strong view, is just to ask ourselves the question is whether we feel that up to £50,000 is enough for the venue ones.
I think we have to cap it somewhere, particularly because we need to be aware there may be more than one. We may want to support more than one venue. I think we'd have to ask ourselves if it was considerably more than that, that they may need support from elsewhere, other than just the town council.
So you have to say 2 or 3 organisations, because everyone's entitled to apply.
Yeah, because we haven't there isn't a cap in there for the maximum amount. There are, other than the amount of money that we have in, say, the devolution budget, which could have other calls on it.
That's kind of, I guess, the basis of my first one of the question. Because we don't know the size of the pot that we might have, we might restrict ourselves now by that figure. So say hypothetically, if we had £150,000 available, we could give 3 at 50. That's absolutely possible. We wanted to do 1 at 75, 1 at 25, and 1 at 50. We wouldn't then be able to do that because we constrained what we can do. I'm trying. I appreciate I'm just putting the thought out there.
I appreciate the sort of hypothetical, but I think there has to be a line drawn somewhere. And £50,000 was the amount that was in there previously as in exceptional circumstances, and that was in there last year. We have had requests for large sums of money, but they've been less than that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, that's true.
And so, I think if there is an organisation that needs considerably more, they wanted £100,000, that's other conversations might need to be had about the sustainability of that organisation.
Okay, I think in the spirit of let's do it, see where we get to.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say.
I'm happy to propose the policy.
I wonder why. Everybody in favour?
Yeah,
thank you. That's passed. Yeah, that's what I thought. It decided to go straight to it for some reason. Right, code of conduct.
It's all fairly straightforward. isn't
It is, it's just this,
And reminding all councillors to read and immediately digest. I think there's not a lot to comment to be made.
there isn't, there's nothing there, isn't
No, agree, yeah.
in fact, there's not many changes on it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Propose that one.
I think so.
Okay, all in favour? Yes, we must have done it, be let.
It's a majority anyway. Always nice to be unanimous.
Right. Annual investment strategy.
Very few changes.
There's nothing at all on that
I
one,
haven't,
not
I
hardly
haven't got any
anything at all.
additional comments on that one.
And where we've amended it to finance governance committee / full council, that just depends on which one's coming up next and how quick we can get one.
Right. I'll propose it.
Yeah.
In favour?
Let's go for it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You can take the choice between Tom and Anne, then this part that's gone through. Litigation. I've got it. I've got it. There's nothing in that because I did read it. I think you sent me a copy anyway. Is there anything? There's nothing in it. Is there?
No, it's all fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
All procedural stuff.
Right.
I'm happy to propose
Okay.
fabulous flow charts.
Are you going to second or do you want me to second it, Tom? I'll second it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favour? Yeah. And I think, sorry.
I've just remembered something, and I apologise, I didn't have it on my notes, and I know we've already agreed the policy, but I have just realised that there wasn't a figure in there for the donations in the grants policy. Is that to be agreed at full council? But there wasn't a proposed figure in there. It was in yellow.
It was £100.
Yeah, £100, but there was like
Coming, it was
as an
what's in
overall
yellow.
cost.
It was what was the overall and where is the money going to come from?
Yeah, that's the bit that wasn't actually ironed out, but is that to be agreed at full council?
You can make a recommendation to that.
Just the rest, obviously, we've signed that one off, but I just
Yeah.
realised that was a point that I missed. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I don't know how many donations, have got the mayor's Christmas card donation, we've a couple of small ones. I don't know what amount we would ask for. We're looking at £1,000.
I would have suggested £1,000 would be enough for that.
Which would be up to
For the whole year.
For the whole year.
Yeah, I don't think we've given that amount in donation this year, but £1,000 seems like a more than sufficient sum.
Depends how many request comes from the members or organizations for a donation.
Yeah.
We decide what to give. That would be. So, what time of the year you get demand or request for this kind of donations? Do you have any idea during Christmas time or some Easter time?
It's not something that's come up so far, other than the mayor opting to donate the amount that he would have spent on Christmas cards to Carrot. I think that was actually £300, but that came from, that was opting not to spend something that was in the budget.
Because actually the charities would come through the grant policy.
Yes,
If they want.
that's what I.
Yeah, so then we don't really get people writing to us asking.
Who would you go and help them out for £100,000? That will come down to it.
Yeah, but that would be up to £100, but 10 lots of £100 potentially through the year if there are opportunities if there are particular organisations we're aware of that might want a donation, or if we had a civic event, for example, that we attended. If the mayor's, attending an event like the carols in the park. We could opt to give a donation of £100 without going through the grants committee to specific charities.
Yes.
I mean, that's how I'm envisaging it happening. Or if there was a particularly small request that came into the grants. Well, we have had them down to about £500, but if there were particularly small requests, then they could be covered by that.
A lot of the smaller people that want grants think they can't do it because of the amounts we're given. I was at somebody last week, and a woman said about it, and they're looking for about £50 or £60. And so we can't do that. And I said, of course you can. You can put whatever sum you want, just please do it. But they're not getting it, we're not getting it through to them. For the smaller organisations.
Yeah.
Maybe we'd be able to do a bit more to say, yes, you can do this. Because they look at it,
Yeah.
especially when we put it out in a garter of some sort. But we're saying we're giving £1,000 or so pounds. They say, well, that's not us. It's a shame because all the other organisations have stopped giving small grants.
It may be that individual members might recommend if there's organisations they're aware of that could benefit from just a small amount of money for a very small project, then they can recommend it.
And it would all go through the grants committee, but they haven't got the onerous task.
Yeah.
It's just a request for a donation. They don't have to fill out the application.
Just a letter, a request letter.
Yeah.
And how would it work? So slightly off topic. So members' allowance, and if a member doesn't take their allowance, but would like it to go to an organisation.
They have to take the allowance and can then give it to an organisation, but it can't be paid on their behalf to anyone else. That's
I've
what.
already asked that question.
So what happens to the allowance? Yeah.
You get the allowance and then I'm going to give it to mine to some other organisation.
But if say you don't, it sits in the budget and underspent, so then get fired out into another budget line at the end of the year, or
End up in a general reserve if you don't use it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whether we can
okay.
make a provision that councils, if they can request that if there is an underspend, that it could go to a particular.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
You can build up a pot, but at the end of the day, you have to decide how are you going to use that pot.
Yeah.
And if you don't have any ambition where you want to spend it, it will sit in the account unnecessarily.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that if the member says that I don't want to use my allowance and underspend, let it drop into the general reserve, and then the pot, you can withdraw out from the pot for unexpected expenses. Right? Okay, because we haven't got budget for this pot of this request, we'll dip it into the general reserve and take it out, rather than ring fencing in something without any specific reason.
I was just wondering whether particular grants pot, which did get exhausted last year, if there was, because the total amount of the allowance is only £30,000 in total, if nobody took it, and I know some councils are, some councils there's tax implications for taking it, or other kind of benefit implications if they take that allowance. They may prefer not to. Whether it's possible for them to request, rather than it being paid to an organisation, but request that underspend is put into, say, the grants pot to be used for that purpose. At the end of the year.
That councillors can refuse to take it. That's what you're basically saying. So what?
Yes.
So if it's not drawn down, and at the end of the year, when we close the account, saying that we've just done for the last financial year, there'll be money sat in the account. Unless we put it somewhere, it would just fall into the general reserves. But what the council could agree to do is they could agree that any underspend, or if any money's unspent from the councillor allowance pots, goes into the grants pot, or goes into an earmarked reserved for whatever you want, capital projects or something. But unless you decide that you want it to go somewhere, then it would just fall into.
But my proposal would be to underspend from that particular budget line, any underspend to go into the grants pot to help community organisations, which I think is what most people would, if they were going to give their money to something, it would be to similar organisations.
But
and it would then go through democratic processes to actually,
I think that's right.
Gets the money.
Yeah, because the challenge of taking it and then giving it is the tax that you lose from so you're actually giving the organisation less than if they were to go through the kind of official grant route.
The government takes a top slice.
The tax told me that if I do it voluntarily to an organisation, the organisation then can claim the tax back on it. because I've given it away.
Yeah, they get a good date.
Yeah.
That's true, but there's tax implications for the person who's actually claimed the money,
Yeah.
put into different tax brackets and all sorts.
So, well, yes, that's.
But for those people I know there are some councillors who have decided they don't want to claim it at all. That would be a proposal that I would like to put to full council.
Makes sense.
And it may be that people don't agree with it, but just so there's a definite plan, rather than it just falling into general service. It's not a massive amount of money, but in terms of the £2,500 grants that we give out, it could be it could be a really useful way to use
Yeah.
that.
Same things like your,
Yes, for the following financial
So
year.
it's be a year.
Because what I was told, I think somebody told me, that if I wanted to give it, that I couldn't do that. I had to give it myself. If I don't give it myself, I can't say where it's gonna go. Yeah,
No, you wouldn't be able, so I think what we're saying is what you wouldn't be able to do is say, I as a member, I'm not going to take my allowance, so I would therefore like to via this money to this community group. You can't do
I
that,
can't
but
do- you
but we
can't
can
do
put it
that.
into the grant pot.
It'd be good to be ideal, but then I've got no trouble where it's going.
Well, that's the,
Yes,
yeah, exactly, yeah.
But it would be going to,
Yeah.
some based organisations doing great works.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, that's a topic, but.
That's my suggestion to add in as
Yeah.
another point when we look at the grants
Because
policy.
lots of people are asking about it at the minute, so.
Yeah.
Give us some clarity on, yeah.
but then,
Yeah.
yeah, that's fine. Well, maybe we can put it as an agenda item, the next finance and governance meeting, and then you can put that as a recommendation to full
Full
council.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No one is.
Right, the last thing,
Sorry.
okay, the last thing is the calendar for 24-25, and I can't get it up on this one, mine, it doesn't want to know.
Yeah.
Oh, it's come up.
I've looked at this before, there's no major changes
There's
since
nothing
last
on
time.
There's a couple of what changes. So we've taken August out because
Yeah.
we had lots of meetings to book for August. And that was done.
That's a very wise decision.
Yeah, that's what we
Thank you.
thought. And we had to move. There was a finance and governance, so 4th of June. Purely, we've added that one in, because we've got the annual return to approve. And so we wanted a finance and governance to run through first, we was having this discussion earlier.
Mhm.
So we've put an extra one in then, so then it can go to the full council on the 11th of June, and it's got to be approved by the 30th.
Okay.
Understood.
And in similar vein to today's meeting, is it worth adding another finance and governance in April next year for the same reason as today?
Yeah.
Unless you want to do that in the March meeting, but,
Yeah, we'll probably do it in the.
or you just do it in March.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's fine,
that's fine.
Okay.
And you had full council in June was only as a reserve date, but we've actually put it as a date because you will need to approve the annual return.
Okay, but that could be a relatively short.
Mm.
Don't know who I'm kidding here. Could be a short one.
There's an agenda there, but we'll fill it.
That's the worst thing you can say to me, you say it's
Living
gonna be short, it'll be long.
Living home.
Right,
Otherwise, yeah, I like the structure. It's suitably spread out, so no one person is going to be, having a week's worth of meetings.
Yeah.
Similarly, officers.
Yeah, except for the June ones, because you're gonna have finance and governance on the 4th and the personnel is on the night after.
Yeah, there's not
We had to get a
too
meeting.
many back-to-back
No.
sessions, so that's appreciated.
Yeah, brilliant.
that's it.
It looks really good.
Well, that's good. That gives me time to get home.
I'll do a quick proposal. I shall propose that
Yeah.
timetable.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
that's it. So meeting closed at 16:47.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Word, did you?
Yep.
Right,